Part 1. The First Ring. A Brother Lost. The phone was heavier than it looked. Ethan Blake stood in the center of his dorm room, staring down at the black rotary phone resting in his hands. It was old, really old. The kind of thing you might see in a 1950s movie. Its coiled cord was stiff with time, and the rotary dial had worn numbers behind a cracked plastic cover. But what unnerved Ethan most was the strange sensation that it was warm, almost like it had been used recently. But it hadn't. There was no cord to plug it in, no outlet nearby, no way it could possibly function. Yet the phone had rung. He set it down gently on the desk, backing away like he just placed a ticking bomb. Earlier that day, Ethan had wandered into an antique store on the edge of campus. The place didn't even have a name, just a weather-beaten open sign swinging in the breeze. Inside, the store smelled like old wood and forgotten memories. Dust layered every surface, and shelves were cluttered with cracked porcelain dolls, broken clocks, and rusted tools. He hadn't meant to buy anything. But the phone, it had caught his eye. Tucked between a stack of warped books and a jar of what looked like dried beetles, the thing almost glowed with darkness. Its black casing gleamed in a way nothing else in the shop did. Then the shopkeeper appeared behind him. An old man with glassy eyes and a voice like gravel. "You shouldn't touch that," the man said. Ethan chuckled awkwardly. "Sorry, it's just cool. Is it for sale?" The man hesitated. "Some things want to be owned. That phone isn't one of them." That should have been the end of it. A warning, a goodbye, and Ethan would have left. But something about the phone called to him, figuratively, and he would later realize literally. "I'll take it," he said. The man didn't argue. He just wrapped the phone in a sheet of old newspaper and whispered, "Never answer if it rings." Now, hours later, Ethan was staring at it. The phone hadn't moved. It didn't light up. But he couldn't stop looking at it, like it had eyes he couldn't see. At 3:17 a.m., it rang. Brrr, ring. Ethan jumped so hard he knocked over a glass of water. The phone rattled on the desk, vibrating with an unnatural intensity. The sound wasn't loud, but it was wrong, deep and metallic, like it was echoing from a tunnel underground. It couldn't be real. It wasn't plugged in. And yet it rang again, brrring. He stepped toward it, hand outstretched. The receiver was cold now, ice cold. The second his fingers touched it, the ringing stopped. He hesitated, then slowly lifted it to his ear. Nothing. Then static. Then a voice, barely audible, like someone speaking through a mouthful of dirt. Blood, must, balance the call. Ethan's heart seized. "Who is this?" he demanded. "What do you mean?" Silence. Then a second voice whispered, this one more familiar. "Ethan." His blood turned to ice. It was Liam's voice, his older brother. "Liam," he said, his voice cracking. "What the hell is this, are you?" But the line went dead. Ethan stood frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear, and then it buzzed, like a power surge ran through the receiver, shocking him with a painful jolt. He dropped it instantly, and the room went silent. For a moment, he stared at the phone, heart pounding. Maybe it was some twisted prank. Maybe someone had rigged it somehow. Then his real phone rang, his smartphone lying beside his bed. "The caller ID, Mullo?" He answered quickly. Her voice was shaking, trembling. "Ethan, it's Liam. There's been an accident. They said it happened at 3:17 a.m., a head-on collision with a drunk driver. Liam died instantly." Ethan sat at the kitchen table of his childhood home, numb, staring at the black rotary phone now tucked inside a backpack under the table. He hadn't told anyone. How could he? He tried to forget it, blamed grief, lack of sleep, guilt. Maybe he dreamed the call. Maybe it had all been in his head. But the next night it rang again. Brrr, ring. He woke in darkness, the sound already screaming through his skull. This time he didn't hesitate. He flung the receiver across the room. The ringing stopped, but 10 minutes later it rang again. Louder. Ethan unplugged every electronic device in the room, buried the phone in a dresser drawer, wrapped in towels. Still it rang, and this time someone answered first. When he picked it up, a voice was already speaking. A woman's voice. Sad. "Ethan Blake," she whispered. "You shouldn't have answered. Now the balance has shifted. One ring, one soul. It's not over." "Stop this," he shouted. "What do you want from me?" The line was silent, but he could hear breathing. Then, "The next call will be for her." "Who?" No reply. Ethan returned to his apartment and locked the phone in a metal box. He buried it beneath textbooks in his closet. He didn't sleep. He kept checking on his mother, calling her every few hours. She was okay, but Ethan knew it wouldn't last. He began researching cursed objects, death phones, folklore. Nothing concrete, only whispers on obscure forums. People talking about black rotary phones that never needed power, that killed the ones you loved, that could never be destroyed. The next night, the phone rang through the metal box. He opened it slowly. Burring, his stomach churned, his hands trembled. He answered. Ethan, it was his brother's voice again, but twisted, wrong. It's warm down here. Ethan sobbed. I'm sorry, Liam. I didn't know. Then the woman returned, cold, calm. You must not answer again, or another shall die. This is your burden. 3 days passed, no calls. Then one night, Ethan's phone rang, his real phone. It was his mom's neighbor. Ethan, I'm sorry, your mother. She collapsed this morning. The paramedics say it was sudden, brain aneurysm. She didn't make it. He dropped the phone. Everything blurred. He hadn't even touched the black phone. But it didn't matter. The curse didn't care if he answered or not. The ringing was enough. Ethan packed everything, moved back into his parents' home. The black phone, he locked in a chest and left in the basement, but it still found him. It rang once in the middle of the night, softly. His dreams were filled with static and whispers behind the walls. Liam's voice, his mother's voice, calling for him. 1 week later, he went back to the antique shop. The shop was closed, boarded up, abandoned. A faded sign taped to the door read, All calls have consequences. Ethan now lives in silence. No landlines, no electronics, no visitors. The phone is still with him, hidden in a vault underground. And sometimes at 3:17 a.m., he hears it faintly. Part 2, The Second Ring, A Sister Silenced. The walls were too thin to contain the dead. Ethan Blake sat in his childhood bedroom, wrapped in a blanket he hadn't touched since he was 13. His mother's funeral had been 3 days ago. Her perfume still lingered faintly on the couch downstairs. Her bedroom door remained closed, locked from the outside, just in case, as if she might return. But Ethan knew better. She wouldn't be coming back. He'd buried her next to Liam. The Blake family plot was starting to look like a collection. Ethan stared across the room at the steel lockbox resting on his desk. Inside it was the black rotary phone. It hadn't rung in days. But that meant nothing. The silence always came before another death. His hands shook as he reached for his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he reached her name. Maya Blake, his little sister, 21 years old. Funny, bright, sarcastic, addicted to true crime podcasts. She was the last one he had left. He pressed call. Ethan? Maya answered on the first ring. You good? You sound like a zombie. I'm fine, he lied. Silence. You're not. What's going on? He hesitated. Maya, I need you to listen, and I need you to believe me, no matter how crazy it sounds. He told her everything. The antique shop, the phone, Liam, the first call, their mother, the warnings, the voices. At first she laughed. Then she heard something in his voice, something broken. You think it's going to come from me next? She whispered. Ethan's eyes stung. It always rings before it takes someone. It hasn't rung in 3 days. That means... A sharp knock interrupted him. His heart sank. It wasn't at the door. It was downstairs, coming from the basement. Maya was still on the line. Ethan, what was that? He barely heard her. The phone was ringing, burring. It echoed through the floorboards like a siren from the deep. Not loud, but dense, like the air itself was vibrating. Ethan stood frozen halfway down the stairs, staring at the basement door. He had sealed the box inside a metal cabinet, padlocked it, and buried it under concrete tiles. Still it rang, burring. Ethan? Maya's voice was urging his ear. What's going on? He wanted to lie, to keep her safe, but there was no time. Leave your apartment, he said quickly. Now, just get in your car and drive. Drive where? Anywhere. Just go. Please. She paused. Then she said, Ethan, it's ringing here too. He froze. What? The phone in my apartment, my landline. I haven't used it in years. It's ringing. Don't answer it, he screamed. She didn't. It stopped, but only for a moment. Then her phone went dead. Hello? Maya? Nothing. Ethan ran. He didn't stop to think. He got in his car, keys shaking in his hands. The drive to Maya's apartment should have taken 15 minutes. He did it in 8, tires screaming around every corner. The building was dark when he arrived. Her lights were off. He sprinted up 3 flights of stairs, banged on her door. Maya, no answer. He kicked the door open. The apartment was cold. The old landline sat on a dusty table by the kitchen wall, still, silent. Then something moved. Maya? He turned the corner into her bedroom, and she was there, alive, curled in the corner, shaking, eyes wide with terror. Ethan dropped to his knees and held her. She was ice cold, soaked in sweat. I didn't answer, she whispered. I didn't. It rang and rang and rang, but I didn't. He pulled back and looked into her eyes. That was when he saw the blood. Maya's nose began bleeding without warning. A steady trickle ran down her upper lip. Her hand started to tremble harder. Maya? Ethan's voice cracked. She touched her temple. My head feels weird, like someone's pressing from the inside. No, Ethan whispered. No, 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 don't do this. You didn't answer. She collapsed. The hospital kept her under observation for 2 days. Brain activity was irregular, but there was no evidence of stroke, aneurysm, or trauma. No cause. On the 3rd night, she stopped responding altogether. Coma. Ethan sat beside her bed, hollow. Her machines beeped quietly in the background, sterile and useless. That night, the black phone rang again, bing. It echoed through the hospital corridor, though no one else seemed to notice. Ethan walked to the waiting room. The phone sat on a coffee table in the center, black and impossible. He picked it up. You didn't answer, the woman whispered. I never will again, Ethan growled. She sighed. It doesn't matter. The contract is sealed. The ring is enough. Take me instead. A pause. Then, soon, the line went dead. He didn't leave the hospital for days, but the doctors finally insisted. She's stable, they said. You need rest. He returned home. The phone was waiting, sitting in the middle of the living room. He smashed it with a hammer, set it on fire, buried it in the garden. It always came back. Desperate, Ethan contacted a man known only online as Professor Alder, a reclusive expert in cursed objects, rumored to have studied death-bound artifacts across Europe and Asia. They met in a small church on the outskirts of town. Ethan showed him the phone. Alder didn't touch it, didn't even approach. Instead, he nodded grimly. I haven't seen one of these in 20 years. You've seen one before? 3, all destroyed families, one in Poland, one in Vietnam, one in Kentucky, no survivors. Ethan stared at him. How do I stop it? Alder met his eyes. You don't. But there has to be something, a ritual, a counter curse, anything. Alder shook his head. It's not a ghost. It's not even a demon. It's older, thing that was never human pretending to be. It feeds on connection, love. The more you care, the more it takes. Then what? Ethan shouted. Let everyone I love die? No. Alder finally looked at the phone. There is one way. What? End the line. Ethan blinked. What does that mean? Alder stepped back. Break every tie, reject every voice, sever every bond. Let no one love you. Let no one be loved by you. Become nothing? Exactly. Ethan swallowed hard. Or, he asked, or answer the final call and give it what it wants. What does it want? Alder looked him dead in the eye. Company. Ethan returned to Maya's side that night. She looked peaceful, too peaceful. He sat beside her and took her hand. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I tried. I swear I tried. The monitors beeped steadily, but faintly he heard it. Brrring. Not from his pocket, not from the hallway, from inside the room. The black phone sat at the foot of her bed. Maya's eyes fluttered, then opened. Ethan stood slowly. Maya? She looked at him, but not through him, into him. Her voice was distant, empty. You should have let it ring, Ethan. He stepped back. No, she smiled, soft and not her smile. Now I'm part of it. The monitor flatlined. The nurses couldn't explain it. One moment she was fine, responsive. The next gone. Massive cerebral hemorrhage, no warning, no cause. Ethan didn't cry, he didn't scream. He just picked up the phone beside her bed and whispered into the receiver, I'll end this. The voice on the other end sighed, satisfied. One ring remains. Part 3, The Final Ring, Answer or Die Alone. There was no one left to call. Ethan Blake stood in the center of his empty home, the rooms hollowed by silence. Dust floated like ash through shafts of dying sunlight. His family photos were gone, his mirrors broken. Every clock was stopped at 3:17 a.m. The hour the phone first rang, the hour the dead began to collect. He hadn't spoken to another living soul in 8 days. No texts, no calls. He deleted his social media accounts, smashed his smartphone, burned every photo album. No more attachments, no more connections, no more loved ones to lose. That was the only way to survive. So said Professor Alder. But Ethan wasn't convinced survival was the goal anymore. He stood barefoot on the cold wood floor, staring at the object on the kitchen table. The black rotary phone. It was always clean. No matter how much ash or dust collected in the house, the phone remained untouched. Its surface gleamed, smooth and glass-like, like it had just been polished. But he never touched it anymore. He hadn't since Maya's death. One ring remained. That was what the voice said. But it hadn't rung in 8 days, until now. Ring! The sound shattered the stillness like a bullet. Ethan didn't flinch. He simply turned and walked toward it. The phone vibrated gently on the table, not plugged in, no wires, no source, just hunger. He didn't answer it. Not yet. He poured himself a cup of black coffee with shaking hands and sat across from it. The ringing continued, steady and patient. Ring! You've taken everyone, Ethan said aloud. My brother, my mother, my sister. You even took my memories of them. He stared at it with bloodshot eyes. I should be next. The ringing stopped. The silence was worse. Then the phone buzzed. Not a ring this time. A voice came through the speaker on its own. You are the last, Ethan. He said nothing. You know what you must do. He still said nothing. You are the only soul left tied to the line. The line must end. Answer, and all will be over. Or, Ethan asked. The voice was gentle, almost kind. Or you remain here, alone, forever. Ethan got up, grabbed the phone, and threw it against the wall. It didn't break. He stomped on it. Nothing. He grabbed a crowbar and smashed it until the wood cracked beneath it. The phone did not so much as dent. It rang again. He ran to the backyard, dug a hole 6 feet deep, threw it in, buried it under soil, bricks, and concrete, went back inside, took a shower. The moment he opened the bathroom door, it was sitting on the hallway table. Ringing. Ring! He stared at it for a long time. Then he called Professor Alder. Somehow, the line still worked, even with no phone or SIM card. The old man's voice was dry and weary. You heard the final ring. Yes. You know what it wants. I do. And you know the cost? Ethan hesitated. I won't lose anyone else. There's no one left. That's not the cost, Alder said. Then what is? To answer is to join it. The moment you accept the call, you become the line. Ethan drove to the coast. He walked out onto a fog-covered cliff at dawn, carrying the phone. There, with the sea roaring far below, he tried again. He flung it over the edge, watched it vanish into the mist. He waited 5 minutes, then turned around and screamed. The phone sat behind him on a rock. Ringing! He returned home, set the phone in the center of a salt circle surrounded by melted candles. He sat down beside it. You want me? He whispered. Then let's talk. He picked up the receiver. No sound. Then soft breathing. Then a woman's voice, clearer than ever before. You should not have answered. I had no choice. There's always a choice, she said. Then why me? She paused. Because you kept picking up, and you didn't let go. You killed my family. No, she said, you did. Every time you answered, the thread tightened. The phone only opens the door. You hold the key. Ethan's hand shook. So I can stop it? You can stop it if you give it yourself. He sat in silence, then slowly whispered, what happens to me? You become the next voice in the line, the one who whispers, the one who waits, the one who warns. And the ringing never ends. He nodded. Tears ran down his face. I'll do it. The line went dead, but he didn't hang up. The receiver began to grow hot, then burning. Ethan screamed as it fused into his hand. The black plastic melted around his fingers, then into them, crawling up his arm like ink into his veins toward his heart, his head. He fell to the ground convulsing, and then silence. Ethan Blake disappeared. No one looked for him. No one remembered him. All public records vanished overnight. His house was found empty, dust-covered, with a single object in the center of the floor, a black rotary phone, ringing. Epilogue. 2 weeks later, a girl named Rachel walked into an antique shop in another town. The shop had no name. She wandered through shelves of broken dolls and rusted keys until she saw it. A black rotary phone. Clean, heavy, intriguing. She picked it up. Behind the counter, an old man appeared. I wouldn't take that, he said. She smiled politely. Why not? It doesn't belong to the living. She hesitated, then placed it on the counter. Still, I like how it looks. The man wrapped it in yellowed paper and handed it to her. Before she walked out, he said one final thing. If it rings, don't answer, Rachel laughed. Sure, whatever you say. She left. The bell above the door jingled, and as the sun set behind her, The line never ends. The end.